Today I'm going to walk you through the flow path through Model 2 and Model 2R. I'm just going to walk you through the specific components and everything in the system. So this is our main inlet and outlet. For the unit itself, it is clearly marked where your inlet is. It's going to be the farthest right fitting, your outlet, and then your drain. Right after water enters the inlet, it's going to come through on this check valve here. This check valve, when the unit's not actually flowing water, this is going to seal closed and obviously prevent water to go back into the well tank or back into the municipal line. When we're flushing, or obviously whenever the system's running, this check valve will open, allow water to flow through. So water will flow through this line across here into the stage 1 filter. So on the right-hand side of the unit, these are your pre and post filters for the system. So your stage 1 filter is going to be here in the middle. Stage 2 is on the left-hand side, closer to the front of the unit. And then your post filtration is going to be a stage 4 here. So the stage 1 filters, we're going to have different filter options that are going to be changed out in stage 1. So it's either going to be, if you have a standard filter set, it's going to be a 20 to 5 micron gradient filter. Stage 2 is always going to be catalytic carbon. If you do have a chloramine filter set, stage 1 and stage 2 is going to be catalytic carbon. And then stage 4 is always the same. It's going to be the calcite media, which is going to balance the pH, bump the alkalinity, and add a little bit of taste back into the water. So after water enters into stage 1 here, it's going to come across our inlet pressure sensor, which is going to be here, and then our inlet Tds sensor. One thing to note is when our system is running, we are only monitoring dynamic pressure into the system. When we're actually not running, because our check valve is closed, this pressure sensor is only monitoring what the pressure is within the system, not what the actual feed pressure is into the unit itself. After it passes through the TDS sensor and the pressure sensor, enters into the feed side of the stage 1 filter. The outlet of stage 1 actually flows across the upper manifold. There's no water path that goes across the base of the unit. So the clean water out of stage 1 flows across this tube here into the feed side of stage 2. Water flows through stage 2, where it's going to filter the water again through the catalytic carbon. The outlet of stage 2 is going to be here. This pressure sensor is monitoring, this is your pressure sensor, which feeds the inlet of the pump. So it's going to be your pump inlet pressure sensor. So this is monitoring a few things. Obviously, we're making sure we're not running the pump dry, but also checking the pressure differential between stage 1 and stage 2 to make sure we're not too much of a difference as far as a pressure differential to identify if we potentially have a prematurely plugged up stage 1 or 2 filter. It'll throw an alert, and you'll usually get a low pressure alert as well with that. The outlet of stage 2 is going to have your pressure sensor here. That pressure sensor is going to be post-filtered water. The main reason for that is if there's any type of heavy metals or iron in the feed water, we want to alleviate the risk of fouling out the impeller here, which just has magnets on it, and that's what the sensor's reading. It is very quick and easy to swap these sensors out. So like the pressure sensors, these are held in with a single 532nd Allen. The flow meters are just a quick release clip on it to remove the sensor itself if you need to change the sensor, or if you need to swap out the impeller. The impeller can be changed out independently with removing the low pressure clips here and swapping the sensor out itself. The outlet of the pressure flow meter flows down to the center core of the unit, goes down into the inlet of the pump. The inlet of the pump, grab a light and show you the inside here. There's going to be 3 main lines that enter into the inlet of the pump. So the line on the right-hand center side of your center right-hand side of your screen with the brass fitting at the base, that is the line that comes directly from the outlet of stage 2. The line that's on the left-hand side in the center of the screen, that is your permeate flush solenoid and permeate flush line. So there's a solenoid directly above it. On the top of the unit here, there's a solenoid there. That's what opens and feeds the inlet of the pump with permeate water, and then that small fitting there is the check valve for that. So when it's not doing a flush, that check valve seals and prevents any reverse flow. On the opposite side of the pump is another line. That is your concentrate recirculation line. That's where we, if we are recirculating any of the concentrate, that's where the water is going to enter into the actual mixing bowl of the pump. And then on the other side of the pump, opposite of where the concentrate recirculation is, that white sensor, that is your TDS sensor, which is monitoring the TDS within the mixing bowl of the pump itself to make sure we stay within limits inside there as well. After it goes through the inlet, goes through our 9 stages of impellers on the pump in that stainless steel housing. And then the outlet side of the pump is going to be near the back of the unit, where you're going to have your outlet line, which is in the center of the screen, and then a pressure sensor, which is monitoring the pump outlet pressure. That line routes up to the center of the machine again and goes into the feed side of the membranes. So this is going to be your membrane upper manifold. There's going to be 3 different lines on the membrane upper manifold. So we have the feed line, which is marked on top of the manifold with feed. You have your permeate side, and then this is your permeate flush side. So instead of pulling off the tank, we're actually pulling off of the permeate line at the outlet of the elements. So when we actually flush with permeate water, it flows through this line towards that solenoid that I showed you earlier. It's the solenoid there with the green sticker. That is your permeate flush line. As far as permeate flow, this is this line here, which flows down the side of the machine into the main inlet lower manifold for the tank. If you have a Model 2R with a single membrane, this membrane towards the front of the machine is eliminated, and your membrane is going to be here. The permeate line gets kind of rotated and it pulls off of this port right here. So the permeate line is a little bit longer on the Model 2R to accommodate for the location of the permeate line here. As far as concentrate flow, I'll go through that before we go through permeate flow. So the concentrate line is going to be at the base lower manifold there. Flows up the side of the machine into the kind of the center core of the unit. And the line from the concentrate is going to be this one here, which flows into this manifold. So this is our discharge manifold and our concentrate recirculation manifold. So we're controlling a few different things. So inlet water flow is going to be here, feeding into these first 2 solenoids here. The 2 solenoids here are your concentrate recirculation solenoids. There are ported orifices inside these, the outlet lines for these, which is controlling the flow, and there are 2 different sizes. So you have 3 different flow rates of concentrate that you can flow through the system. And depending on what the feed water chemistry is and the feed TDS, we can have either of these open or both open, or obviously both closed, flowing concentrate back into the unit to improve the recovery rate. The outlet line for that is going to be this lower manifold down here. There's a line which runs into the side of the pump going down the center core of the system. If we aren't recirculating or any excess water from recirculation, it flows through these final 4 solenoids, which are your discharge solenoids. Again, just like the concentrate, there's 4 different port sizes on these solenoids to control flow rates, which is how we're able to control reject rate from 100 TDS all the way up to 3,000 if you have a Model 2, and then up to 1,500 on a Model 2R. So you can have 11 different combinations of reject rates flowing through these solenoids, mainly because they're different port sizes on each of them. And then the outlet water running down the drain is going to go through the lower manifold on this side, and this line runs up the back of the system directly out our drain side of the unit, which is where you're going to be connected to a floor drain, sump well, or the sewer line for the home or business. As far as permeate flow, like I showed you, this runs just down the side of the system. This is our small integrated surge tank. Again, there is no bladder inside the surge tank. It is just atmospheric pressure. We're just holding about 6 to 7 gallons of ballast water inside this to handle any instantaneous surges that the location may have as far as usage before our pump actually turns on. The outlet side of the manifold is going to be towards the back of the unit, which is right next to the outlet of the pump. So down at the base of the unit there, that fitting, that is going to be your outlet for the tank. That line runs up the back side of the unit into the inlet of stage 4. So your inlet of stage 4 is going to be towards the back of the system. Before it enters into the filters, you're going to have your pressure relief valve here, and then your outlet TDS sensor. The one thing to note with your outlet TDS sensor is this is monitoring TDS prior to running through calcite. So if you're doing a post-water lab report for any reason, or testing the water after the unit, it's going to show a little bit different TDS at the faucet compared to what this sensor is going to show, obviously, because it's after calcite. It'll flow through the calcite filter, again, remineralizing the water, balancing the pH, and adding alkalinity. The outlet side of that filter is going to be your outlet pressure sensor, which is monitoring the pressure going to the home or business. This is the one main trigger that we watch to determine when our system needs to turn on. Depending on what the pressure goes down to, we use this pressure sensor to determine how hard we need to run the pump to match whatever the target flow rate is at the time. And then our outlet flow meter is, again, also important for identifying what the outlet demand is to determine how hard we need to run the pump to actually match whatever the flow rate demand is also. So this is monitoring what their actual outlet flow demand is at the time. After it flows through the flow sensor, it flows through these couple elbows and directly out the outlet side of the system. We're going to be plumbing directly into your ball valve and three-way bypass for the system itself. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to our tech support team. We can walk through any components on here. It's just basically a basic run through of the system to give you an idea of specific components and the flow path through the system. Thank you.